Welcome back to my tutorial series on modeling a clock in Maya. In this part of the series, we will be finishing up our model to prepare it for animation. To start off, I'm going to go to Render, Default Quality Rendering. Now viewport's back to normal. The next thing I'm going to do is delete the construction history by going to Edit, Delete All by Type, History. Now, construction history is the ability for us to select an object, open up the attributes editor, and then go back in time and change some of the properties of the functions that we've applied to this selected object. And when we delete history, it will basically delete those functions and permanently bake the geometry into the geometry, so we no longer can edit it. It's finalized. Close this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is open up the layers/channel box, right click on all of the layers and delete them individually by right clicking and going to delete layer, including the image planes layer. The next thing I want to delete are the image planes themselves and the curve we used to revolve the clock. So I will go to Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. Then I will jump to Utilities, select the image planes, just use Shift, then press Delete on your keyboard. That should remove them from your scene. Now to remove that curve, I'm just going to open up the outliner and delete curve 1. Now I'll leave the outliner open, just shift it over to the side here, select all of our geometry, and then I'm going to go to Modify Freeze Transformations. That will cause Maya to, once again, bake the vortexes and faces and edges into their current positions and forget all of the scaling and the moving we previously did to the model. Then I will delete history one more time. And the next thing I'm going to do is naming the pieces of the geometry. The reason for this is, say someone's in the outliner, like I am right now, and they've come across the object p cubed 2. That doesn't lend them many cues as to what the object is in the scene, or polysurface 1 or polysurface 2. All these object names are completely useless to somebody. This is especially important when you have multiple objects imported into scenes. For example, if I imported this clock into a house model, I wouldn't know what geometry was a house model or what was the clock if they all had generic names like p cube 5, p pipe 3. It's just very hard to work with the scene when none of the objects are named. So we are going to fix that. Up on the status line, there's a handy utility for this. Simply press on this symbol here and set it to rename. Now we can begin renaming objects in our scene through this field up here. So if I was to select, say, this body, right now it's called polysurface 1, I can instead change its name to body. And we'll just continue our way around the object. In the case of this battery case, since it's made up of two parts, I will call both of them battery case. It's pretty simple to do this. Simply select both items, then up in the field type in battery case, press enter, and it will call one of the objects battery case 1 and the other object just battery case. The next thing I'm going to name is the battery itself. I will just call it battery. Then I'll call these connectors or something, I don't know. This will be called wheel. Work our way to the front of the model. We will call this piece glass. I'm pretty sure it's plastic on the real-life clock, but I'll call it glass. Now for the clock face, which is the piece with the numbers on it, we will call it face. Now we will name our clock hands. This is hour hand. We use underscores instead of spaces. In Maya, it does not support spaces in object names. Minute hand. Second hand. And I will call this piece cap. And I will call these pieces axle. And now I will open up our outliner again and make sure all of the items have relevant names. Now that that's done, we can save our scene. In the next part, we will begin animating the hands using an expression.